Hey guys, Carl from Technical Enduro Skills Training School. I've got two exciting things to work on today. Number one, I'm going to fit some new clamps. Number two, I'm going to fit some closed cartridge WP Pro 6500 Xplor cartridges to the forks. Good friend Robin Scarry is going to help me. He's the top suspension guy in our group, so he's going to help us out. You know, we wouldn't consider ourselves suspension specialists, but we're definitely enthusiasts, and so we learn as much as we can about it. So I got these clamps from TBR. They are new yokes or triple clamps, whatever your word is for them. They use the opposing clamping system, a little bit like similar to the X-Trigs. I mean, for me, the guys from TBR are on another level, careful about attention to detail. These clamps are things made just absolutely beautiful. You can see that they use titanium screws all throughout. Every screw is titanium. Even underneath the clamps, where you're clamping the central yoke in place, those are titanium screws. They're very light for what they are. They have 3 handlebar mounting positions here. The one that the guys are recommending for me to ride is in the middle and turned back. What a lot of people don't know is the standard KTM clamps are offset or concentric. So if you fit them this way, they take the clamps 5mm forward, and if you fit them the other way around, back, so you turn your clamps, then you move your handlebars back. So if you think about that, you've got 3 positions, and in 2 positions each, you've got 6 positions that you can play around with. Equally, these clamps allow for 20 and 22mm offset. So you've got 22mm, which is standard KTM offset, and then you've got the 20, which makes the bike a bit more agile and should improve the handling in technical riding conditions. So we'll give that a try. We'll test both, and we'll have a play. But these things are just beautiful. You can see here rubber inserts with the TBR name, sort of laser etched engraving, the name, the clamp details, beautiful things. So we're gonna put them on. We're also gonna show you why we run these clamps as opposed to normal clamps, yeah, I think you'll like it when you see it. Okay, so what we've got here is a set of machine clamps, the standard KTM clamps, and when you read on them, it says 12 Newton meters in terms of clamping force. And so what Robin will show you, we've got an outer and an inner here, and you'll show, what is it, just loose at the moment? Yeah. So it's just loose at the moment. You can see that the inner fork leg is just moving up and down. I don't want to just drop it, but there's nothing on it. Okay, there's absolutely no force on it. And then if we tighten it to 12 Newton meters, so it's got digital clamps there. They're set to 12 Newton meters, so I'll hold them. Clink.
These have just got the glide and slide bushes inside. They've got no seals on them.
What are the
seals? Because the seals will cause a bit of stiction. This is just for.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. What are glide and slide bushes? Are they these things?
These are the glide and slide bushes. One goes on the inside. One goes on the actual chrome section, which is this one. Yeah. And this one fits inside on the outer tube.
I see.
So they're Teflon coated. And if you feel inside them, they can get quite rough. The older they are, you can actually feel the difference between new and old.
Yeah.
So at the moment, that's at 12, and it's binding.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a bind. Look, there was a little bit of a bind there, and that's at 12 Newton meters.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
So if you.
So I mean, these are used forks. So fair enough. If you've got brand spanking new forks, there's a possibility that at the correct setting you'll just have complete free movement. But you can see even these forks now with 12 on them, there's clearly something that's stopping them from going. That's why it's so important to torque your bottom clamps on your forks to the correct specs.
See, that's only 17 Newton meters, right? So that's not a lot more.
Yeah.
These are, you know.
Yeah.
Look. These are relatively sticky.
Yeah, they stuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is how much your suspension will be affected. Your front wheel will be skidding. Your suspension just won't be operating the way that it should be. So the torquing of those bolts, you know, this is not an opposing clamping system. With KTM's normal clamps, Husky, whatever, some of the others, they all go in from the one side. So what they have a habit of doing is making the tubes oval, and so your bushes get stuck on the inside.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we've moved the fork legs to the TBR clamp. Now the KTM clamps, on them is stamped 12 Newton meters for the lower clamp. On the TBR clamps, it's stamped 17 Newton meters for this clamp. So you saw what happened when we put the black clamps to 17 Newton meters. It completely jammed the forks. So let's put these at 17 now and let's have a look and see what happens. Okay, 17.
Yep.
17. No binding. Nothing whatsoever. Now let's go a bit extra.
I'm setting these at 21.
By the way, this is just for demonstration purposes. We're not saying you should clamp them up to 21. We just want to show you the difference between an opposing clamp system and one that isn't opposing clamp. This one keeps the fork tube round, it doesn't oval the fork tube. So they're now at 21. No binding, again. So you can see what value in terms of suspension performance that you get from these. Not only are they holding your legs in place stronger, you don't get those silly bar twists every time you fall over, but there's a lot more flexibility in terms of how you clamp them up. Yeah, anything else, Rob? Yeah?
No, don't think so.
All good. Right, let's have a quick look. So these are the Xplor Pro 6500 closed cartridge kits. I got these from Technical Solutions. Guy, Mick there, phenomenal smart suspension guy. He's the real suspension pro. I think he looks after a few pro rider suspensions. So, but you can buy these at most KTM dealers. I know that Eurotech supply them and others. So have a look. So what's in the box, Rob?
Right, so to start with, we have the cartridge. So that's already pre-bled. This is the mid valve basically. So you've got the mid valve cartridge, you've got inside here you've got a set of valves, compression and rebound. It's got, instead of a bladder like the old ones, it's got a spring in here similar to the cone valves. So I'd imagine it's a bit of a mixture between the cone valves without a cone as the compression.
Yeah.
As the shims instead.
Yeah.
You've got these are the rods that go in that adjust your rebound.
Yeah.
They screw onto the bottom with your rebound adjuster on there.
Yeah.
You've got compression adjustment on the top here.
Yeah.
And also you've got your spring preload, like cone valves, unlike the old one. So that's interesting. These are basically this goes onto here, spring butts up against here.
Yeah.
This goes on the bottom, adjuster goes into here, spring butts up against here. These are your spacers for your spring, so that you get your spring length correct. The recommended length of spring is on the website, but the recommended length is 475 millimeters. We've been recommended 474.
Okay.
So we're going to go with the recommendation. You've also got a few various tools and bits and pieces in here as well. Yeah. We'll see what they are later.
What about the springs? So how do we determine what's the right spring length and what's the
right?
spring
So
length?
how I do it. This is how I do it.
I'm sure everybody has their own way of doing it. So
now, these are the springs that Carl has bought for his weight.
Yeah.
What I would do...
Big boy springs, no fat jokes, please.
These are a set of standard springs. What I would normally do is I would measure them up with this. I would zero it. I would zero it at the base there and measure it like that.
Yeah.
I have already measured these, but they are coming in at 472.
Yeah.
Más o menos.
Okay, so how do we take up the other 2 mil?
So we're going to take up, obviously, we've got the spacers here.
Yeah.
And a set of verniers.
Yeah.
Basically, we're just going to add the 2 mil.
Yeah.
We're going to find a 2 mil spacer to add to this one. Now, both the springs may not be the same length. This is quite normal.
Okay.
It's just in the process of manufacturing. You know, they don't always come up bang on. As it happens, these are, because I've already measured them.
Cool.
So we need a 2 mil spacer for both these springs. The other thing that's worth checking out is what is the spring's strength? What is its Newton strength? Now, compared to what it actually says on the box, this is how I would do it. I would zero this, so there is no compression on that spring. I've got the intercomp weighing scales here.
Yeah.
I would zero the weight
as close as you can.
it will always jump a little bit from just sheer. There you go, zero. I would zero my distance here.
Yeah.
So if you compress this spring up and you compress it up, there you go. For example, let's get it exactly. We'll get it exactly at say 19. So that's now compressed up at 19 millimeters, he says. There you go.
Yeah.
And the weight that's being pressed onto this is 7.75 kilograms.
Yeah.
Now, the equation that I use, if you put a weight on the top of your spring and you've got the compression, the distance here, it's basically 4 kilograms over the distance. So in this case, we are looking at the weight, which is 7.75 kilograms, divided by the distance, which is 19 mil.
Yeah.
So that gives you a 0.40 kilograms a millimetre squared. That's not Newton meters, that's different. So if you remember that number, 0.40.
Yeah.
And now if we go into conversion and we type in here 0.40.
This is a millimeter to Newton millimeter conversion table.
Yes. So now Newton millimeters, that spring is actually a 3.9.
Right.
Now that's not what it says on the box, but none of the springs do say what they say on the box, to be honest. I've got 30 springs in there and none of them say what they're meant to say. So you can do several different types of this. You can add more. Doesn't matter.
We've made sort of 3 measurements along the spring rate, right?
Yeah.
And they average out around 4 Newton meters.
One spring is actually 4. Yeah. Bang on.
Yeah.
One spring is 3.96. So within,
close enough.
Close enough to 4. So they're actually about 4 Newton meters. But I've done several different measurements at different sites, and it all comes out the same. Awesome. It will do. The more you do, the more accurate it will be.
Cool.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, right. So we're going to try a quick video on the install of these. There is no installation manual. When you click on the link that's there, there's just an owner's manual, which is not very helpful, but we'll wing it. So I usually use this set of clamps just to hold my forks while I undo them. It's a 50mm socket, or sorry, a 50mm spanner on the top. Undo the top, turn them upside down. It's a 17mm, basically an Allen key. So you want to brace yourself with there, and again I've undone it, so undo the bottom. Then you can take that clamp off, don't need that anymore. we can unscrew the top. And you can let the outer tube drop down. Then you want to be draining all the oil out. So I've already done this. Drain all the oil out, and I normally just prop it up like that, let it drain out, leave it for 10 minutes or so.
Cool.
Right, so now we want to get this head off of here. So 24mm, pull the spring down, put it on that nut there, get your 50mm again. Now you want to try and get that top off. So we're going to undo the top off there. He says.
Quite a lot of force on that.
There is.
Yeah. There we go.
Just that comes off.
Yeah.
This rod comes out. And then the spring comes out.
Cool.
Now, there's going to be spacers in here, probably, which will probably want to fall out, or maybe not. No, it doesn't appear to be. Okay, so now we're going to get the internals out. Let's undo this. Like that's your base valve. And then the internals come out.
And that's it?
That's it.
Right.
At this stage, oh sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, at this stage, if you wanted to change your slide bushes and glide bushes, etc., and the seals, now would be ideal time. You could take this off, take the little circlip off, knock it out, put it back together like that. You know, it's the ideal time to do it. So
we're not going to do that, right? Because the forks have just been running, so
yeah,
everything should still be nice.
These are basically new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
So the first thing you want to do is make sure everything's super clean. That's really, you know, IPA is worth using. You know, it's cheap, safe. It looks like this base. This goes into the bottom of the foot and locks into place. It will slide out, so at the moment just hold it in place. We're then going to want to put the spring in. So that just drops into there. Then on the cartridge needs this spring guide to go onto here, and then that pushes up into the top there, like so.
Yeah.
That's going to hold the spring down. The spring's we've already done the spacers on the spring, so the spring is at the right
length,
like we said. This feeds in here. That pushes through, and just for now, just lightly screw that up.
just holds it all in place.
Just holds it all in place. And you want to turn this upside down, either put it on something soft, like my foot. Now, in here, in this hole here, you need to put the adjuster rod, which is here. That drops into there, like so. I then tend to use just a bar to push on your thing. Remember, I've got my foot underneath it to protect it. Now, what I use is I use this little fork. So we push, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
We push this down and you get the fork, and the fork goes there to hold that. Now we can put this. Now remember, I've unwound this, so you've got no pressure on there.
Yes.
So that's a 0. Now the other thing that's important is that this is wound down, because otherwise it won't set properly. You need to make sure that when you wind this up and it comes to a stop, that you still have a gap there. because otherwise, you know, you're going to lose all your settings. So now we want to do that up, presuming it's a 17 like everything else. Yep. And then we've got our big 17mm Allen key. We want to pinch that out. Now what will happen is this will pull that one up against that until it locks. I'm sure there's a million people saying, oh, it should be torqued up to a certain level, but
you've got a built-in torque wrench.
I have a built-in torque wrench that's that. So that's that. Now we want to release the pressure. Push down. Obviously it's still under my foot. And take the fork out. And then this is allowing this to drop that down into there. Now this should now allow us to do this up. Like that. Now, some people would Loctite this. I've never had one come apart. I think it's totally unnecessary, but that's, you know, that's opinions really, it's up to you.
Each to his own.
Yeah, each to their own. So again, built-in torque wrench. You know, don't have stupid tight, but it's tight enough. So that is that, and that is that. Now we've got that, we can unscrew the top again, because we only lightly screwed it up. Let it drop down, and we're ready to put the external oil in.
And how much oil are we going to put in?
Good question.
360ml I think is recommended by Technical Solutions. I think TBR recommended 380ml. I think it depends on what you want. The more oil you have, the more bottoming resistance you have in a fork, right? Correct.
Yes, because it's the air gap that it's leaving. Obviously that's the your final port of call. It's what happens when the suspension crushes right up. It's that last little bit of air gap.
Yeah.
If you've got a big air gap, you've got much more compression at the top. If you've got, you know, obviously people have done the work here. We're going to go by what's recommended.
And it's full weight KTM oil that we're using.
Yes, we are using for once the proper KTM oil. I've found before with this viscosity levels, when you actually look at all the levels and all these, because people always say, oh, what oil would you use? But I mean, I just tend to stick to one oil. And as long as you stick to one brand, at least it's consistent.
Yep. Then you can play around with oil.
To be honest,
and all the this
says it has a viscosity of 5. You'll tend to find that some are 4, 4.5, some are 4, some are 6. They aren't what they say on the thing. So I think as long as you stick to the same make, I don't think that oil is as important as, well, in the forks. Shock's a different kettle of fish. Okay.
Okay, so Rob is about to pour the oil in. We're going with 360 milliliters. The manual says 380. A couple of other guys have said 380, but Mick from Technical Solutions has found that you know, there's very few guys that can actually bottom the fork out at 380, and you want to be able to bottom the fork out at least occasionally on your ride. Otherwise, you're not using all of your suspension travel. And so we're going to test. We're going to go with 360. Take Mick's advice, and we'll do some testing. And if we feel we want some more ramp up at the end, then we can always add a little bit. You can add 5mm increments, or you can add 10mm, or whatever the case may be.
It's a lot easier to add it than it is to take it away.
Exactly. That's it. So oil's in. Tighten the top cap.
Do it all up. Use the clamps again. I mean, if you haven't got them clamps, you can put it in the bike and and use your bike clamp to do it. But this is, just an old set of things. So I would just clamp them up, then do up the top. It states on the because this has got a preload adjuster on it as well. So you've got a 35mm. It comes with its own 35mm spanner in the box.
Yeah, which looks like this.
Like that, yes. But the 35mm spanner fits on here, like the cone valves. So you can put preload on. Preload affects what weight is needed to start the suspension travel. It doesn't make the spring any stronger, like people think. It literally is, when does it start? How much pressure is needed to start the spring moving? Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks guys.
Okay guys, you can see TBR clamps fitted with the Xplor 6500 cartridges in the forks. It's all clamped up. I think it looks amazing. Couple of cool things about the TBR clamps is that you can use your standard KTM handlebar clamps on these. You can't with other billet clamps. You got to buy their own clamping system. These should just fit your KTM clamps. And the guys from TBR have recommended that I run it in the middle position with the clamps turned back. That is apparently the magic setting. So we're going to give it a run like that. We'll see. The other cool thing is the top cap. As you nip the top cap down, it exposes which setting that you're on, the 20 or the 22mm offset. I'm going to do the 20 to start with for agility of the bike, and run it like that. Cool thing that you get with the cartridges is this little tool. It's like a flat disc, and this is so that you can do your compression adjustment while your handlebars are on the clamp. You don't have to do anything weird with a bendy screwdriver like we used to. So that's a cool little tool that you get in a box. And then one last tip is, if you're looking for good quality grease, Bellray waterproof grease. By the way, I get nothing for this recommendation. It's just grease I like. So this stuff is magic. They use it in a marine environment. It's thick. It just doesn't wash out. So I put tons of this stuff inside on the steer bearing, and to stop any kind of rust appearing there or anything like that. So I'll try and do a little bit of a follow-up video on the performance of the forks, or what do I think of them. Clickers, I've just gone with the standard clickers. What was it? 18
rebound, 16 compression. 18
rebound, 16 in compression. So that was the recommended starting point in the manual. We'll give them a ride. We'll see how they go, and we'll play around with that, and we'll report back. Thank you.